I'm going to kick off. Just to introduce myself, my name's Philippa Neat. I work for Groundwork UK. And Groundwork is the grant administrator for the VCSE Energy Efficiency Scheme. So just to give you a little bit of information about the scheme, it's set up to help voluntary, community and social enterprise organisations across England to deliver more efficient services for people and communities by saving money on their energy bills. Just to say as well that the session's been recorded and it will be put up on our website, so you'll be able to see it. And the slides are also available on our website, so you'll be able to go and have a look at those anytime you want. And I know that Sarah is going to post a link in the chat, so you'll be able to find those easily. So I'm going to talk you through the presentation. There's quite a lot of information, and so I will be pausing throughout to take questions. So I think that's best rather than save them all up to the end, because I think it will work better if we take them in stages as we go through the presentation. So yeah, please do pop any questions you have as you go along in the Q&A, and then I'll be able to pick them up at those question breaks as we go through. There might be some that I can't answer, and if that's the case, then I will take them away and we will make sure that we come back with answers to them. So just to kick off, the scheme is now open. So both strands of the scheme are now open for people to apply, and we're encouraging people to apply as early as possible. It will close in August 2024. So just to tell you a little bit about Groundwork, we're a national charity. You might have heard of us. We have trusts around the country who support communities in local delivery. And we also administer a number of grant programmes on behalf of the private sector. So we have a Tesco grant programme, and we also have a programme with Comic Relief, and also we have some grants with government departments. So it's always worth having a look at our website just to see what other grants are available. There might be some other grants that are suitable for your organisations. And our website link is just at the bottom of the screen. So please do go and have a look. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk you through today. I'm going to give an overview of the scheme, talk about the dates that you need to know, and talk about the funds that are available to apply for. I'm going to cover eligibility criteria, so who's eligible to apply. I'm going to talk about how to apply for an independent energy assessment, and also how to apply for a capital grant. And then towards the end, talk about some tips and hints for putting in a good application. And like I said, we will pause at separate points throughout the presentation to answer your questions. Okay, this is just a slide that sort of walks you through the different stages of the programme. The first thing you'll do is an eligibility checker, which sits on our website. That will walk you through a number of questions to find out if you're eligible to apply for the scheme. If you are, you can apply for an independent energy assessment, and then once you have an independent energy assessment, you can apply for a capital grant. So talking through some of the key dates, the eligibility checker and the IEA are open now, and all funds must be spent and projects completed by March 2025. Okay, so just to talk a bit about the eligibility criteria for an independent energy assessment. So applicants must be one organisation with charitable benevolent purposes and one of the following legal statuses. So you can see them listed there in the bullet points. If you are an organisation that distributes surpluses to shareholders or members, then you must have an asset lot and you must reinvest a minimum of 51% into charitable purposes. This scheme is for organisations in England, so you must be based and operating in England, and you must be delivering frontline services or managing a building as a hub that delivers frontline services. And what we mean by frontline services is services that are provided to individuals, to the general public, so not services that are provided to other organisations. They have to be provided to individuals. You must be able to evidence the need for energy efficiency support as an organisation, and you must be financially sustainable and likely to continue operating for the next 2 years. So I just talked through the criteria for the independent energy assessment. That all applies as well for the capital grant, but there is some additional eligibility criteria. So you must have been operating for a minimum of 2 years. You need to have an independent energy assessment. So that can either be one that you've applied to our scheme for and you've had done and you now have it in place and you want to use it to apply to the capital grant. Or it could be that your organisation already has one, that you've had one done by somebody else previously, and you can use those to apply directly for a capital grant. And I'll talk a bit in the future slides about what that needs to look like, what that needs to include in order for you to be able to go straight to capital grant stage. You must be able to evidence that the energy efficiency measures you implement will enhance your financial resilience or help you support your frontline services. And you have to include a financial plan which is aligned with the payback period of the measures you want to include. So in your application form, there is templates for this. So there's a template you can fill in for the financial plan. You must own the building or have at least 2 years on your lease, and you'll need to provide documents with us to evidence that. And if you don't own the building, so if you lease it, you'll need to fill in a building owner permission form, which is included in the application form, just to say that the building owner gives you permission to carry out these works. If you need any permissions to do the project, so planning permission, environmental licenses, you must either have those in place or have applied for them before you apply to the capital grants. And you must be able to ensure that your costings are robust and realistic. So if you're awarded funding, then you'll need to obtain 3 different quotes or run a tendering process just to be able to show you can get value for money. And all projects must be able to be delivered by March 2025. What that means is there's a question in the application form where we ask you to tell us why you feel you're not suitable for loans or blended finance. So there's a number of reasons that could include. Some organisations have restrictions in their governing documents. So the way you're governed, it's been decided that it's just not appropriate to take out loans. You might have uncertain future cash flows, concerns about how you would repay a loan. You might already have loans or debt for other things and just feel that you're not in a position at the moment to take on any additional financial obligations. You might think that you've just got a very low likelihood of being able to secure any repayable finance. So you might have a poor credit history, you might have no assets that you could use to borrow against. Or perhaps, depending on what you're thinking of applying for, the energy efficiency measures that you want to implement may not generate an income or cost savings that are sufficient to pay off a loan, so they might not be suitable. There can be other reasons, so it might just be that you currently feel your organisation doesn't have the capacity to look into it, get skilled up and manage it. You might be lacking the time or resources or expertise to have business plans or systems in place to take on debt. Like I said, there's a question on the application form where you can explain your reasons there. Okay, so there's a few organisations or buildings that are ineligible for this scheme. So schools, colleges and universities aren't eligible, or statutory healthcare facilities. And statutory organisations can't apply either, so local authorities or town and parish councils. So the scheme is targeted at the VCSE sector. And there are some buildings that are ineligible. So religious buildings that are primarily used for worship. So religious buildings are eligible to apply, but they must have community services delivered from them. So if they're only used for worship or used for worship primarily, so we say more than 50% of the time, then they wouldn't be eligible to apply. And we also can't fund domestic buildings. So those that are occupied either by one person or one family for personal domestic use. So the scheme is very busy at the moment, and it's really likely that there'll be more applications that can be funded. So we are applying the prioritisation criteria. So there's 3 prioritisation criteria to prioritise applications for funding. The first is those organisations who are directly supporting, directly supporting individuals and communities with critical needs, particularly those related to the cost of living. And if you have a look at our programme guidance, you'll see these services in there. So services that address poverty, so providing food, warmth, emergency supplies or personal grants, shelter, accommodation and housing for those most in need, advice services for people experiencing financial, housing or legal challenges, and services that address specific physical and mental health issues, such as disability, addiction or dementia. Education, training and employment services that improve employability, or community hubs or centres out of which a number of these services operate. So you might be an organisation that delivers services yourselves out of a building, or you might be an organisation that manages a building, which yourselves or other organisations offer those services from. Second prioritisation criteria is organisations for whom energy is the biggest concern, and that is evidenced by the proportion of total expenditure that is spent on energy, and whether you're delivering frontline services that are particularly reliant on energy. And I'll talk a little bit more in the future slides about how you can evidence that. And then the third criteria is micro, small and medium-sized organisations, so organisations with an income of less than 1 million. And there's an additional prioritisation criteria for the capital grants, and that is projects that have the best value for money. And that's evidenced by capital measures that will make the largest cost savings, capital measures with the shortest payback period, so how long it takes the measures to pay for themselves through savings, and the impact that the savings will have on the organisation and its delivery of services. So how will the cost savings be used to improve the services that you offer, and what will the positive impact of those savings be on your beneficiaries? Okay, so I said the first sort of thing you'll come across on our website is the eligibility checker. And this has to be completed to take you through to the application form. It will ask you a series of questions linked to the eligibility criteria to find out if you're eligible to apply. So, for example, the first eligibility criteria is whether you're an organisation established for charitable benevolent purpose. If you answer yes, it will take you on to the next question. If you're not and you answer no, it will tell you that you're not eligible. It will lead you to the right application form. If you don't have an IEA, it will take you to the IEA application. If you do, it will ask you some questions about it, and it will take you to the capital grant application. So there's 7 questions to answer for the IEA, and there's 12 questions for the capital grants. And the link at the bottom of the screen will take you to the eligibility checker. Okay, so to move on, I'm going to talk a little bit about what an independent energy assessment is. So it's a comprehensive evaluation of your building's energy usage, the efficiency and any potential for energy savings. It's carried out by a qualified and experienced independent energy assessor, and it will gather data on your costs and energy usage. It will look at your existing systems. It will provide recommendations for you about improvements you can make, and it will estimate savings that those improvements will make for you. And it will also outline an action plan. We reckon the majority will be done in person. There might be some occasions where it can be done virtually, but I think that would be quite rare. It might just be if you already have an existing IEA that perhaps doesn't quite meet the criteria, and just needs a bit of desktop work to sort of bring it up to standard. But mainly we anticipate it will be an energy assessor coming out in person to your building and carrying out the assessment with you. We'll have a team of assessors that we can dispatch to you to carry out IEAs between January and October 2024. And if you get an IEA from us, it doesn't guarantee success with a capital grant, but we hope that it will still provide useful information for you to help you reduce your bills, or if you are able to access other sources of funding to implement it. And yeah, it just says if you're unsuccessful, you won't be able to reapply. Okay, so this just talks you through the IEA application process. So you submit your application to us, Groundwork will assess it, and it then goes to a panel for a decision. If you're successful, we will send you an email and let you know, and then we will allocate you an energy assessor who will get in touch with you in 2 weeks to arrange assessment. So like I said, we would then hope that in the next 2 weeks that assessment could take place. If you're not successful, we will notify you and let you know. So just a few things, a checklist for when you submit your IEA application. We'll need a primary and a secondary contact details so that if we're unable to get hold of somebody, we've got someone else to try. The application form will ask you information about your organisation and also the building that you want to have the IEA carried out on. You'll need to upload some documents, so the governing document of your organisation, whether that's your constitution, articles of association, etc. Your most recent accounts, so the most recent full year accounts that you have, and also your energy bills from the period the 1st of October 2022 to the 30th of September 2023. Like I said at the start, we're encouraging people to apply as early as possible. It means that you have sufficient time for the assessment to be completed and for you to apply for a capital grant should you wish to do so. I touched on it a little bit in the questions, but if you do have an IEA that's taken place less than 2 years ago, then you might be eligible to just apply directly for a capital grant. So it needs to identify capital energy efficiency measures. It needs to include the potential cost savings for those measures. And like I said, it needs to complete in the past 2 years by a qualified energy assessor. So there's also some questions in the form that ask you to describe how your organisation supports and meet the needs of the people or communities that it serves through the services you deliver. So there'll be some questions that ask you how many service users you support, as well as information about who you support, the type of services your organisation provides, and how your services address cost of living issues. As I touched on before, those two are the first priority criteria. So it's really important that you provide as much information and detail as you can on those two. Tell us the services that your organisation provides. Give us, as much detail on them as you can. Tell us if they are delivering those priority services and how they're addressing cost of living issues for your beneficiaries. We're also interested to know, do you work in partnership with anyone in your community, any other organisations? Like I said, they might be delivering services through your building. How do you work with your community to make sure the services you offer are what is needed? And tell us about the impact that you're having. How do you know that these are making a difference, these services you offer? You can tell us about new things you're trying, how accessible your services are, and what you're doing to improve. And if you've got any future plans to grow, reach more people, or increase your services, you can tell us that as well. The information in this question, like I said, is used to prioritise applications. So it's really important that you give us as much detail there as you can. Tell us, the frequency of the services. Do you provide them every day? Is it once a week? As much information as you can give us, really. Someone asked a question about how you would calculate your energy costs. So there's just an example here to help you. I won't go through it in great detail, but you can see it's asking you basically to think about your organisation's expenditure. So what do you spend your money on? And and what proportion of that is energy cost. So you can see in this example, there's a worked example to help you work out the percentage. And then, like I said, the second prioritisation criteria is around how impacted organisations are by energy costs. So again, it's really important that you answer these questions to tell us about how you are impacted. So has the increase in your energy costs affected your frontline service delivery? Do you have services that are really reliant on energy? So have you had to lower the frequency you offer services? Do you have to deliver less services? Are you able to not be able to provide such high quality services because of the increase in energy costs? So tell us about these changes if you can provide numbers. So, you know, how many services have had to be reduced? How less often do you offer them now than you were previously able to? If you are particularly reliant on energy to run your services, tell us about that too. So do you work with a particularly vulnerable client group who need to keep warm? Do you have a particularly energy inefficient building, so it's old? You know, you've got large rooms, high ceilings. Tell us about the impact that the high energy costs are having on your organisation. And also tell us, as well as how it's affecting your services, how is it affecting your organisation's financial health? So have you had to dip into your reserves to meet the increased energy costs? Have you had to reduce staff? Have you had to reduce your services? And like I said, this is a prioritisation criteria, so please make sure you can give us as much information and write as strong an answer as possible. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about the capital grants. Yeah, so these can be used to install capital energy efficiency measures that are identified in the IEA. So like I said before, you need a satisfactory IEA to apply for a capital grant. You can apply for a grant of between 2,000 and 150,000, and any cost savings that you make should be used to support the delivery of your frontline services. And you can't reapply if you're unsuccessful. So there's some examples of energy efficiency measures. These are just a sort of a high level list. So there's more examples and information in the programme guidance document. So building fabric enhancement, so things like more efficient glazing, insulation, thermal doors, space and water heating measures, so more efficient boilers, systems to, you know, smart systems to manage your heating. Sorry, lighting improvements, so lighting controls, occupancy sensors. Because this is a capital grant, we can only fund capital installations. So couldn't fund things like light bulbs. They have to be actual capital measures. So we could fund like lighting systems, but not individual light bulbs. Or renewable energy measures. So for example, solar panels. There might be other capital measures, depending on what your IEA has found. So there might be some exceptions that we haven't thought about that have been proven to make significant reductions in energy, but they need to be detailed and backed up by the information in your IEA. And as I sort of discussed answering the questions, you know, we may also be able to cover minor capital works to support the installation. So similar to the question around plastering the wall, that would be assessed on a case-by-case basis. So we're looking for capital measures to significantly reduce energy bills. Like I said, these are just a few examples, so please do go and have a look at the programme guidance documents. Okay, so some of the things that you'll need to provide when you apply for a capital grant. So some details about what measures you want to apply to us for. We'll ask for some information about their costings and the impact of them. There will be a template for you to fill in, so it should walk you through the information that we're looking for. Copy of the IEA report, a risk assessment for your project, and again, there's a template provided for that. And a plan of works for the measures you're applying for. So what you want to install, how long you think it will take to install, any risks or issues you're managing linked to that. We'll also ask for a financial plan, and again there'll be a template for that, and that will enable you to tell us how much the energy efficiency measures cost, how much they'll save a year, and what that payback period will be. So all of that information, which sounds very technical and will be included in your IEA. So that will be sort of discovered for you as part of the independent energy assessment. And then, like I said, if you don't own the building, we're looking for a signed building owner permission form from your landlord or building owner to say that they're happy for the works to go ahead. Obviously, some people will come to a capital grant having already applied to us for an IEA. If you've done that, you've already filled in an application form, so we've already got some documents from you. But if you haven't, if you've just come straight to us for a capital grant, then we'll also need some contact information, some questions answering about the building and your organisation, and the documents that I mentioned before, so your constitution, your latest accounts and your energy bills. If you're successful, then the scheme can also provide some support in the delivery of your project. So we're calling this a capital enabler, but what it means in practice is it's a person, somebody with experience of delivering these types of projects who can come out and support you with any difficulties you're facing. It'll be looked at during assessment, so the aim is to offer it to organisations who need it most. And it'll be assessed based on sort of the complexity of your project, the capacity and experience of your organisation, and whether they think that that you will benefit from having someone who can provide some support through the delivery process. So I think at the end some tips for completing your applications. So when you're thinking about who to put down as contacts, make sure it's somebody who knows your organisation, can talk about what you do, understands the project, knows the building and can provide further information if we need it. We might get in touch if there's something we're unsure of during the assessment process. And like I said, make sure that you give us a second contact so that we can contact somebody if we're having difficulties getting hold of the lead contact. Make sure that both leads are senior contacts for your organisation. There's some examples there of the type of people who might be appropriate. And make sure contact details are correct, and that if it changes, let us know. So sometimes, obviously, people leave or move on within an organisation, and we can only speak to the two contacts about the application. So it's really important that you let us know so that we can make sure contacts are up to date. When you do your eligibility checkout and you go through to the application form, it sits on our grant management system, which is called FlexiGrant. So you don't have to fill the application form in one go. You can work on it at different times. You can dip in and out of it over however long a period you want. But you can't submit it until all the sections are complete. If you have got some incomplete questions, it will flag it to you when you try and press submit. And make sure you save your application. So if you have the system open, but you're not active for 2 hours, it will log you out and you would lose anything that you haven't saved. So just make sure that you save as much as you can as you go along. So yeah, I've talked about it before, but the most important thing is that you provide detail about the services you deliver, especially those services that meet our priority list. So those critical services that are supporting cost of living needs. Give us as much detail as you can to tell us how regularly they're delivered. If you manage a hub, make sure that you tell us about all the services that are delivered from that hub. So even if they're delivered by other organisations and not yourself, just make sure that you include all those details. Like I said, explain the impact that rising energy costs are having on your organisation and how they're affecting your delivery. We have some demographic questions. So we're looking to see who your beneficiaries are, and just wanted to provide a bit of of information on this. So it might be that you don't target your work at a specific demographic. It might be that you're open to all. You know, it's anyone in the community uses your services, and if that's the case, then you just tick not targeted. This is just so that we can understand that who we're reaching through these grants. So it's not doesn't have any bearing on who gets funded. But if you are targeting your services at people, then please do tell us what characteristics those beneficiaries share. I've touched on it in questions, but if you have more than one building, you must submit a separate IEA for each building, and the application asks you specific information about the building that you need the IEA for. Like I said, there might be some exceptions if it's just an annex or a porter cabin, but do get in touch with us if you need any specific information about that. Yeah, so just some more tips about how to write a strong application. Make sure you've got all the information you need. You've got your supporting documents that we need provided. There's quite a few templates to try and support you with the information. So make sure you use those and you fill in all the boxes. And be as clear as you can and give us as much evidence as you can about what you deliver. So it's always good to assume that the people reading it don't know your organisation. We don't know what you do. Something that I've heard people say helps is get somebody who doesn't know your organisation or what you do to read it and ask you any questions or point out things they don't understand. And be as clear as you can. So who do you support? What do you do? Where do you deliver it? How often? And try and be as specific as possible. If you've got data, please put it in. It just helps build a picture of what it actually is you do. Like I said, we've got programme guidance, eligibility criteria, and frequently asked questions. So please do go to our website, read all that. If things still aren't clear, please do give us a call or drop us an email, and we can come back to you on specifics. I know I've not been able to answer everything tonight, but hopefully we can take it away and look into it and come back with an answer. And yeah, remember, you can only apply once, so leave yourself enough time to submit a good application. We're at the end of the presentation, so I'll just talk you a little bit about the next steps. So there's links here to everything I was talking about, the programme guidance, the FAQ documents, to take you to the eligibility checker, and the email address you can contact us and the phone number you can contact us on. So like I said, if you go away and have a look and you still have questions and you'd like to chat to someone, please do get in touch with us. We're happy to talk through any questions or help.